Hi, kids. Okay, next up on the marquee is The Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs was released on February 14th, 1991. Means it's the second film that we've covered in this horror series, uh, the other one being Dracula, that came out on Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day have some bloody horror. So it is based on the novel of the same name by Thomas Harris. Thomas Harris got his start as a crime reporter and then published some novels. His second novel was the first to feature the Hannibal Lecter character. That novel was Red Dragon. Uh, Before Silence of the Lambs, it was that novel was adapted by Michael Mann, was the director, and the title for that was Manhunter, and Hannibal Lecter in that was portrayed by Brian Cox of Succession fame. So he was the first on-screen Hannibal Lecter. Um, Silence of the Lambs had been in production or in development pretty much since that film was released. Dino De Laurentiis and his film company held the rights to that. Um, Gene Hackman was attached and I think had something to do. He might have purchased some of the rights, or there was some option there. And the rights to Thomas Harris's novels, the characters are, it's very convoluted. I won't get into that too much, but it's part of the reason in the Hannibal TV series that it can have characters from Red Dragon, but not from The Silence of the Lambs. So that's why Clarice Starling is not in Hannibal, because they didn't have the rights to that character. And then there's the TV series that came out not too long ago that had Clarice but couldn't have Hannibal. So it's all tied up in legal stuff that I'm not going to sort out in this video because my last video was 20 minutes long, and let's not repeat that. Not this time, anyways. So eventually the film goes into production. Jonathan Demme is the director. Demme is someone who had started under Roger Corman. So if you're not sure who that is, go watch my Roger Corman video, because Demme went through the Roger Corman Film School. Interesting director. He's directed some documentaries, mostly music ones. He did the Talking Heads Stop Making Sense, as well as a couple for Neil Young. So Demme's the director. Jodie Foster obviously becomes Clarice Starling. She wanted to play the part right from the start. But Demme and the production were interested in looking at different actresses, even though at the time Jodie Foster just won an Academy Award. She gets the role, and of course, Anthony Hopkins is Hannibal Lecter. Um, they looked at other people, of course, for that too, as with any production. You look at this person auditioned this, yeah. It happens all the time for every movie. There's not a single movie, I think, that's just everyone gets cast right away and nobody else auditions. Enough about that. And Scott Glenn plays Jack Crawford. Jack Crawford is based on John Douglas, who's one of the heads of the behavioral science unit at the FBI. He's also the bassist for the character in Mindhunter, the TV series. It's a real person. Based on that, Thomas Harris had visited the crime unit at the FBI, based Hannibal Lecter on some serial killers that he had talked to. So there's the genesis of that. And then, of course, Ted Levine is Buffalo Bill. So the movie comes out. It's kind of a sleeper hit. Had a $19 million budget, but ends up grossing $272.7 million. Pretty good. And then the other notable thing is it gets nominated for 7 Academy Awards, which is surprising for a number of reasons. One, it's a horror film. It gets that kind of acclaim. And second, it came out 13 months before that Academy Award ceremony, right? So typically, the movies that are gunning for those awards, because the awards are usually in March, are the movies that come out in December, right? They're on the calendar closer to the cutoff time for the award nomination. So they're more in the voters' minds. But Silence of the Lambs wormed its way in, 7 nominations, and it wins the Big Five. So it's only the third film so far in history to win the Big Five. The Big Five, of course, are Best Director, Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Screenplay. The screenplay for this was done by Ted Talley. He had been attached for quite some time. The Manhunter film, Michael Mann, he had been in talks to do that, but ultimately didn't. So he does this. They wanted him to do Hannibal as well. Same with Jonathan Demme. They didn't like Hannibal. They didn't like the book. Thomas Harris wasn't interested in cutting things, paring it down. I think he might have done the screenplay for Hannibal, but they didn't like it, so they did not ultimately do that. But he does do the Red Dragon, gets remade again, this time as Red Dragon. Ted Talley does the screenplay for that one. Prior to the release of The Silence of the Lambs, Jonathan Demme recognized that the character of Buffalo Bill was problematic. He recognized that. He voiced that himself. He apologized. He knew it was problematic, and he regretted that. And because of that, Jonathan Demme's next film is Philadelphia. So he does that next because of he felt like he had to do something to make up for the Buffalo Bill character and any harm that might have caused. So yeah, movie comes out, wins all the awards, gets all the acclaim. And then the other thing that gets brought up around Silence of the Lambs is it a horror movie? Right? Is it really a horror movie? Did a horror movie actually get all those awards? And I think if you watch it, there are some things that point towards horror, right? There's the sound design, the way towards the end the scene, there's Clarice's breathing and Buffalo's Bill's breathing mixed into the sound, playing in with the music. There is the score, of course. Howard Shore does the score, and then he would also go on with Jonathan Demme to go do Philadelphia. And it's the direction, the manipulation of the audience, the way the POV, the way things are presented, the way we're introduced to Hannibal Lecter, right? Clarice is told about him. There's the long, have to go down the stairs and all this and everything before we finally see him, the portrayal of him. Yeah, just the way scenes are set up to me is like you would set up a scene in a horror movie. The suspense, you could just say it's a suspense movie, you could say it's a thriller. And then, of course, there's the Hannibal character himself, right? He's at parts towards the end of the film, he's like presented like King Kong. He's got a little bit of Norman Bates in there in parts. And then I think the legacy of the character definitely pushes some people to say that it's a horror movie, right? Because Hannibal goes up there, gets painted on murals right next to Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers, right? And just like those characters who started out as the villain, they become the vehicle, they become the star of the future projects. So, anyways, that's it for The Silence of the Lambs. This will be my second to last horror film that I'm going to present in this series. So the next one is the last one. And then I'll do a couple of fun things before it's actually Halloween. We'll move on to the next topic. So thanks for watching. Hit like, hit subscribe. See you in the next one.